Good morning, good evening, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Toonkind at 12 FPS. My name is D.E.W.P Kieran, D.E.W.P, your local server soundboard, and today I'm going, you'll find out who I'm playing in a little bit. I think it would be best if my wonderful partner introduced themselves and we can get the ball rolling and see what's going on.
Oh dear, hello everybody, my name is Whis, and I'm playing one Chifley Forde today. Local music twink.
Music twink. Oh.
Well, is he or is he not a twink?
I don't want to have this discussion on recording is what I don't want to do. What a pecking way to start. Okay. But yes, it's going to be the wonderful Chifley Forde and the wonderful Whis playing Chifley Forde with me today, people. And yeah, we're going to be playing A Dream is a Wish My Heart Makes. So, it's getting closer to Animas. Seasons have changed. From the wonderful, delightful vibes of autumn, Halloweeny sort of vibes of pumpkin spice lattes and fallen leaves, and it's kind of like a scene transition from one camera pan to the next. It goes from that, just the fallen leaves are replaced by snowflakes, and the brisk wind is still there, but now instead of whipping up flurries of leaves, it's flurries of little snowflakes whipping through the air. And people are still walking along with hot drinks, but they've traded out the pumpkin spice for hot chocolates. There are, of course, the typical coffee. Some people are just coffee goers. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't change
Coffee
hot
isn't
chocolate out.
all seasons,
Exactly.
all-purpose beverage.
It's an all-purpose drink. But anyhow, yeah, the camera is sweeping behind buildings as the seasons change, and then it sweeps up and then down and then through a window, and through this window of the public library, we see someone sitting down at a desk. And hey, would you like to explain to me what Chifley would be doing in the library at the moment?
Yeah, he's in a bit of a position where he has a very stable job, and he has managed to convince Missy to behave, at least for the time being. So with her at school and his job really, really almost mundane now, he's sitting down. He's made a point of going to the library for his own personal study, which he hasn't done since he was in school, quite frankly. So he's got books on parenting, books on medical colour theory, and books on teaching, which is the three main subjects of interest in his life at the moment. And he's just been going to the library maybe every 2 weeks or so, taking it like an extra hour and a half earlier finish time from work, and go to the library, and he'll grab a couple of books. And they've got at the Toontown Library, they've got several study tables where you can grab your books or take your tomes and your tablets and scrolls and whatnot and do some work on the tables in the library. And he tends to put a stack and then sit at the table and read. And it's been a bit harder for him today because he's got a bit of a headache.
Oh, poor lad. Oh yeah, I suppose it's, seasons changing stuff. Some people don't react super well to seasons changing, and I mean, it's been a bit of a time. Probably, I don't know. This isn't Chifley's first celebration in Town of Animas, but it's still probably a lot to prepare for, even with a full-time job and looking after the little, as it were. So understandable. He's a bit, got a little headache, maybe a little tired. Okay, could you do me a favor and could you roll me a Constitution save, please?
Sure, let's see how well that goes. Oh, that's a 17. That's actually not too bad.
That's decent. All right. cool. You Chifley manages to get through probably a couple of books before he starts to get a bit fatigued. Um, Tell me, what would Chifley prioritize? What book do you think he would read first?
He'd probably sort of seesaw between the parenting ones and the teaching ones. The medical color theory ones are sort of like a side thing because he is currently already in that industry and he learns on the job all the time. But parenting is not something he was even remotely equipped for up until he had to do it.
Yeah,
And he does want to teach. Like he has a pretty good feeling that at the very least Cody and M1A will still want to hang out and do music things and learn music from him. So he wants to be able to teach them effectively. So he'll probably swap between a teaching how to teach, how to organize lessons, blah blah blah, and the parenting, discipline and all sorts of other various different bits and bobs that involved with parenting. And you'd think I'd be able to list more of them, being as I am a parent. However, I cannot.
consider I pat you very much, and sometimes some things can't be learned from books. Sometimes it
this is
is
this is true.
variable. So
And things you just do and cannot put to words. That also
exactly.
is a thing.
Exactly. All right. So Chifley has been oscillating, bumping his attention between these two books. I just kind of like to imagine he has both of these books open to the left and the right of him, and he's just sort of flicking between the two as he goes. And as he's been doing this, Chifley, over time, that little headache of yours you've been getting is starts to get a little worse. It starts to go from like a little dull throb in the back of your head, kind of migrates to your temple, and now it's just kind of it's like every time you breathe, it pulses, kind of headache. Um,
Oof.
and
Ooh,
yeah,
I feel that.
yeah. Um, so yeah, you got a bit of a headache, mate, and you're not feeling super great. Um, and I will say the library at the moment. The library is actually really warm because a lot of people come to the library to have like Animas readings, like you have those like kiddie readings in libraries and people read out favorite
Mm,
books. They have those going on. There's none of that at the moment because I believe all the kids are at school at the moment. So
mm.
it's only like you know parents with very little children coming in, reading their little books in corners. Some college students, incredibly, these are probably the people that have their age appropriate drinks and coffee coming into the library, which the librarian gives them a bit of a stinker of a look for because you're not supposed to bring food or drink into the library. People don't do that. But college
Let
students,
alone age appropriate drinks. Good golly, who does that?
look, don't judge the people that go into libraries, okay? they They just bring in their apple juices and coffee, snuck under their coats. They find a cozy little nook in the corner on a beanbag chair, pull out a book, and either get their research done or have just some nice semi-social reading time. And
Mm-mm.
yeah, Chifley, your headache's gotten a little bit worse. And at the moment, the library um, the candles have been placed in the window for Animus, which maybe people consider a fire hazard, but as you see someone walk past, they're also wearing like gloves and mittens and scarves on their way out. You can't see their face because they're just like they're piled up in winter clothing.
Mm-hmm.
But as they pass, you see their scarf actually just kind of just fit over the flame. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't catch a light, so you can assume that these candles are illusionary candles, but
Ah,
still give
yeah.
off that feeling of warmth. Um,
Oh, beauty.
and it's just a very nice, soft kind of vibe in here right now. Could you roll me another Constitution save, please?
Sure. That's a 9.
9. Okay, cool. Yeah, Chifley. Your headache. perhaps you try to pick up this next book, Chifley, but man, you try to focus on the words and your brain is just not letting you, not having it. You cannot focus right now because the minute you try to process a word, your brain just thunks, thunks, thunks at you. And
Ooh.
hey, has Chifley suffered headaches before or migraines or anything like that?
Uh, he has increasingly recently,
Hmm.
um, but apart from sort of the normal headache, like if you get like a head cold or something, like that pressure headache when all your sinuses go nuts, he's had those before. And people just get normal headaches, dehydration headaches. He's had those occasionally too, but it's not like a regular thing. No,
Hmm. Okay. So
certainly not anything to migraine level.
yeah, Chifley. This may in fact be Chifley's first migraine then.
Mm,
You want to roll me a quick medicine for Chifley?
sure.
Just to see if he would be aware how to handle this. Yes, that's a
Ooh,
2020. Hey Chifley, you've got a
something he's got proficiency in.
Chifley, you realise you got a migraine, buddy. And you know usually the best thing for that is having some water and taking a nap or sitting in a dark room.
Oh dear. He didn't really want to have to leave the library early, but I think what he's going to do, just to see if it'll pass, is he'll just sort of prop his elbow on the table and put his head in one hand to sort of rest his cheek against the heel of his hand and just sort of press his fingers against that temple and just close his eyes and see whether or not it goes away.
Okay. Well, Chifley, as you do that, as you close your eyes and you just try and ease this headache away, you feel the headache does start to ease, but with the headache easing off, you find that not only is the headache easing off, but you yourself, Chifley, you are easing off. You feel very warm and comfortable. The lights from the candles in the windows and in the awnings is casting a very soft dim light. It's very warm. It's very warm in here. You can smell very faintly the smells of hot chocolate and the occasional bits of coffee floating through the hallways of the library. And
Mm,
you can hear a very quiet turning of pages, and of perhaps like a low murmur from people muttering to themselves along the shelves. And Chifley, I think it's safe to say you drift off to sleep,
mm.
listening and feeling very warm and safe and very sleepy.
Mhm.
And let me roll something here. If my computer would let me do what I'd want to do, that would be fantastic. Hey, can you load up, please? Mm, just imagine for me, people listening, that there's like a magical dream sequence. It's like what you usually get when someone goes off into nod. There you are. There you are. You're what I wanted. Will you transfer over? No. Fine. Be that way. I am trying to. I'm very sorry to people listening. I'm trying to get a page to work and it refuses. Um,
We can have audio function or computer function, but not this,
only
not
the
both at the
one.
same time.
Only the
Yeah.
one. Right, there we go. So let me roll this, and I gotta roll it with. I don't know if I'll need advantage with this, but I may do. So. Wow. Thank you very much for that. Vice Master. But anyway, Chifley, you kind of wake up um with a weird feeling of displacement almost. But hey, do you want to roll me perception?
Sure. It's 5. 14?
Hey, Chifley, you definitely recognise this room. This room should be very familiar to you, actually, considering up until a few years ago, it used to be your room.
Oh, great. Hey, would you like me to describe the room?
Absolutely, please do.
It's fairly. It's not so small that it's claustrophobic, but it's small enough that you'd call it cozy. There's enough room for a single bed and a desk and a dresser. And the walls are very, very pale blue, and the sheets are shades of blue, and there's all sorts of um, drawings and sheets of music blue tacked up onto the fantasy D&D equivalent of blue tack, stuck up onto the walls.
Imagine it be called Glue
And
Smack. You just smack it against the wall and then you just smack whatever you want against it and it sticks.
Yes. Yes, I love that. Glue smack. All right.
Smack.
Glue smack TM. I'm just going to write that so I don't forget it. That's great. Glue smack.
As I can't hear, it is just the
TM.
taka of voice. Penning down glue smack TM, do not steal.
Yeah, and it's got wooden floorboards and a small blue rug.
Very nice. Yeah, so is that all that Chifley sees in here?
It's like it was a 14, so like it's very familiar to him, so he's not really noticing anything in particular. It's one of those things where I think there's actually a term for it. It's like if you see it all the time, you kind of become blind to it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's valid. That's very fair. I will also say with the 14, as you awaken to this very familiar place, Chifley, you hear something. You hear something coming from outside of the door.
Okay.
Not directly
That is
outside
that.
of the door, I will say. It's just there's a noise coming from somewhere beyond that door.
Mm-hmm. I think he's going to sort of. I'm sort of picturing him waking up in the bed, and so he's going to pull himself out from under the sheets and sort of look around because this is not where he should be. He's not been here for such a long time, and like he's pretty sure that at least some of these things he brought with him. So he pulls himself up and dusts himself off a little bit and heads for the door and puts his hand on the handle, and he'll hesitate a little bit but then let himself out of the bedroom.
Cool. As you come out of the bedroom, you hear a familiar. Well, you don't quite know if it's familiar or not from this distance. It's got that kind of strange, weird haziness of it that you kind of get when your brain tries to play a little trick on you, kind of dream style. You hear something coming from what you remember as the direction of the kitchen.
Hmm. Okay. He's gonna just sort of look around as the way that this house is set up. It's got the bedrooms all along a sort of like a corridor, but it's not quite a corridor. It's like sort of a slightly narrow room with a gap in the opposite wall rather than a door. And on the other side of that gap, there's like the main room, and then there's like the bathroom and the kitchen and the dining room that come off that. So he's going to sort of step out into the, for lack of a better term, corridor, and then sort of looking around and still moving really slowly because this is weird. He's, on the other side of, not the other side, but very long way away from here. That's where he was, 5 seconds ago. So he's just going to slowly move through the main room, heading towards the sound that he can hear towards the kitchen.
And as you move further towards the kitchen, you do hear humming, and you want to roll me a. I mean, this is up to you whether you roll for this or not. I won't make you, but do you want to roll me a history? To see if you can recognize this.
Sure, why not? I legitimately nearly just typed history into the chat box. Yeah, that's gonna work.
History, gimme. Ooh.
Oh, Chif.
Yeah, I would say you're still a little confused about where you are at the moment, considering it is that dream state of what's going on kind of thing. So you don't quite recognize this voice, unfortunately, Chifley. But as you make your way through this room and towards the kitchen, um, would you, as you come up to the kitchen, would you like to describe what the kitchen looks like for me?
Sure. It's quite a small kitchen in the scheme of things. It's got um there's a inkwell fridge, magic fridge, and
Magic
then
fridge.
a wooden. And that's sort of next to. There's two doors in the kitchen. One that leads to the main room, and the other one that leads to the outside. And next to the front door, there's the magic fridge, and then there's wooden countertops, and there's a sink, and then there's a stove, and then opposite the benches, there's cupboards and what are they called? There's a particular name for the thing that I'm picturing, but it's got top cupboards and then like a lower bit with a pseudo bench and then cupboards underneath. There's a name for it. I
Oh, I
do know
just
it,
I don't know what that's
but
called. I would just call it a cabinet with a shelf. I
yeah,
know that's not
there's a
what.
specific name. There's a specific name, and I cannot think of it. But you know that kind of thing
Yeah.
with and the top cupboards have like glass doors,
Mm.
or glass panels in the door, so you can see inside, and that's where all the plates and cups and stuff are kept. Um,
Oh, one of those like display cabinet sort of things.
Sort of,
Um,
except it's just the cupboards up the top, so you can see the plates and the cups and stuff up there, and then
yeah.
there's that shelfy thing, and there's like a pot with all of the wooden spoons and things in it, and then there's a set of drawers and then
Ah,
more cupboards,
right. Okay.
um, and then there's a very small breakfast table in the middle
Okay.
of the kitchen.
Right. Okay. So you come to through to the kitchen, and you hear something that noise you heard, and as you get closer to it, you do hear someone is it is a someone. It's not a thing that's making this noise. It's a person. You hear someone just humming a little tune, something along the lines of. And as you do, Chifley, um, you see there's someone standing at one of the countertops. The sink that you described is full of frothy, foamy bubbles. There are a couple of plates and little like cups and things on the washed up training board. And with the way the cartoonish bubbles are popping out, you can't quite see if there's anything else in there. But you recognize this person standing at the counter, fiddling with a plate and going through the fridge and picking out a few little bits and popping them on a plate and humming to herself.
Golly.
Now, where is your thingy majiggy? By the way, was Chifley being particularly sneaky about this, or was he just going for it?
Oh no, he wasn't like he wasn't being particularly sneaky as such, but like he wasn't kick the door down kind of noisy, but he was gearing up to like cuz he and Missy were the last people in this house, as far as he knows, and
Yeah.
he was all geared up to when he opened that door to have to get cranky at somebody for being where they shouldn't. But all notions of that kind of died the second he laid eyes on them.
Yeah, because this particular figure in with their long red hair, and you recognize their clothes as well. You recognize the white long sleeved tunic shirt, and I believe I believe they're also wearing a blue apron, if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken. Um,
yep.
you'd know who this is, Chifley. It would be, in fact, you're kind of surprised you didn't recognize her before, because how how could you not recognize someone like this?
Yeah.
And I've got to roll for her. Oh, damn. Very nice. Okay, so you hear the humming comes to kind of a halt as you cross the threshold swiftly, and then you see this figure sort of straighten up a little and turn around, and you hear, "Oh, Ghibli, oh, you're finally awake, sweetie. It's good to see you. Um, why don't you go take a seat in the front room for me? I'll bring out some snacks, okay?" And Ghibli, this woman smiles at you, and you can see she's turned around. She has prepared some kind of snacks of some sort on a plate, and as she turns back towards you, she says, You go take a seat, sweetheart. I'm just gonna go ahead and prepare some tea for us, and I'll be in just a moment, okay?" And she smiles and turns back around, reaches for one of the tea kettles in the cupboard, and puts that on the stove and starts to make tea.
I think Chifley's just a little bit stunned, to be honest. So he's just gonna watch her go about this very normal seeming action, the one sorts of things that he's seen hundreds of times before, and he wants to ask, he wants to say something, but any possible words are just sort of dying before they hit his voice box.
Um, I'm gonna carry on with what I rolled there. As she fills up the kettle from the sink tap and she pops it onto the stove top, you can see her sort of fiddling with it a little bit before she eventually just and taps it twice very quickly on the stove top, and a flicker of flame bursts to life from her fingers as the teapot starts to warm up. And she turns back around towards Chipley and says, "Sweetheart, it's all right. I'll be fine. I can make tea. It's okay. If you want to be, if you feel like if you feel like you want to help, of course you can. Please give me just a moment, sweetie." And she turns around to the counter, picks up the plate, and hands it over to Chipley and says, "Oh, just take these to snack on, okay, honey? I'll be there just a moment." And she'll hand those over to Chipley.
And he'll accept the plate. Um, and he doesn't say anything. He just sort of looks down at the plate and then looks back up at her, and he's sort of half turns to go in back into the main room, and then just sort of stops and looks over his shoulder, and then looks at her for another really long moment before turning and stepping out of the kitchen. And he's just sort of takes a very deep breath because this is weird. He's not sure what to do.
Oh, Chifley. Well, this person has given you a plate of, if you were to look down, you'd notice this is a plate of uh, familiar snacks. And he's asked you to go and take a seat in the living room, Chifley.
He'll very slowly do that, and he'll go and sit on the little couch they've got there, and put the plate on the coffee table, and just sort of stare at it while he's just trying to process.
Oh, and as you do this, you do hear the humming start up again as you leave the room, and you hear like the tinkering of little cups and such and mugs in the kitchen. And after a couple minutes, you hear the oh, hang on, can I whistle it? No, it's not the kettle. There we go. That's better. You hear the
Very good.
Sorry, I'm still slightly half awake at the moment, people. It takes me a bit to start up the soundboard. You do hear that kettle whistle noise, and then a very harsh as it's taken off the stovetop. You do also just about make out just the very slight pouring of water into something. Clink as the teapot is set aside, and then you hear quiet footsteps coming through towards the living room, and Chifley, the woman, um, steps through the doorway, and says, "Oh, I'm sorry it took so long. Chifley, just give me a moment. Would you like here? Here, it's made just how you like it, honey." And she pops it She pops one mug down in front of you on the coffee table, and then goes around to the other side, falls out of the chair, and sits opposite you, Chifley. Um, and she looks at you and says, "Well, hi, Chifley. It's good to see you again." And this woman smiles at you.
He just sort of looks at her for a long moment, and then I it's good to I don't understand.
And this woman kind of looks her head at you and says, "Chifley, what don't you understand, hun? It's me. I don't understand, but you don't understand, silly." And she gives a little laugh, and she takes a little sip of her drink and goes, "Oh, oh, that's a little too hot." And she just sputters a little bit. "Oh, that's a little too hot." Oof. And she pops it on the coffee table and says, I don't understand what you don't understand, sweetie. I just wanted to catch up and say hi. It's been a little while."
Yeah, it has been a little while. And his voice is sort of shaking, and you know what? I'm not going to do him a whiz save for two reasons. One, because he's got a stupidly high whiz save, and two, he's currently doing all of the emotional controls on my physical form here. So, and I'm already starting to cry. So he's got tears in his eyes.
Oh, by the way, I did quickly roll insight and I got a nat 20.
Oh,
So,
great! He is somewhat overcome with emotion right now.
oh,
Uh,
oh gosh. The woman seeing this immediately stands up from her chair and goes, "Oh, Chifley, oh, sweetie, oh, no, 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 no." And she comes around the coffee table and she just, Chifley, as you start to shake and you feel that emotion come up, you are pulled very quickly um into a hug. Um, that is not tight, because this person, you know what they're like with hugs. They're hugging as tight as they can, but it's not it's not an incredibly tight hug with how they are, and just you feel your face be pushed into her shoulder, and he says, "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. It's okay. It's okay. You let yourself feel that, okay, honey? I'll be right here. I'm still here. You're okay. You're all right." Um, as Chifley starts to shake a little bit.
yeah. Um, he leans into that that familiar hug, and his arms come up to cling to her clothes a little bit. And he just sort of takes some really deliberate breaths. It's been how many years? 2? Nearly 2. Yeah.
And as you say that, Chifley, you feel this person who has wrapped their arm around your back and pressed your face into their shoulder just very slightly rock you from side to side. And you feel something press against the top of your head in a very familiar motion as this woman leans her cheek on the top of your head and says, "Yeah, it's been a few years, hasn't it, my little Sonata? It's been a little while. Oh, Chifley, I've missed you so much, sweetie." And you feel the tight a little, just a little tighter.
His hands tighten on the fabric of her clothes. I'm not sure if you're really here. Am I really here? Is this?
Okay.
I've missed you so much.
Let's see. Um, as you say that, you feel this woman, this person, very gently pull you away from her shoulder, and you feel one of her hands go to one of your shoulders and the other hand go to the other shoulder, and she pulls you back, and she says, Chifley, Chifley, look at me, sweetie. Okay, look at me. I'm here, and you're here, right now. We're here, and it's okay. You're okay, and and she pauses, and I'm here for you, okay? I'm here, right now, and I'm not gonna go anywhere, okay? And I'm gonna roll persuasion. Where is. There it is, okay. Okay, it's an 18.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah. So with an 18, Chifley, this woman is not going anywhere. The grip she has on your shoulder, whilst not a very strong grip, is firm and sure. And the way she is looking at you, um, even as she smiles, she is she is not she's not going anywhere for now. She is staying right here with you. She is as real as you are right now, and she is here, and uh, she's just as real as you are right now, Chifley.
He takes a deep breath to try and keep it at bay, but he's just starts to cry. And as he does, his voice wheezes more, and it eventually becomes silent, even though he's still crying.
And as Chifley does that, he's gonna feel hands on his shoulders tremble a little, travel up from his shoulders to his neck, to the sides of his face, and very gently you're gonna feel a few fingers tucked behind your ears, brush the bangs out of your eyes, Chifley, with their thumbs, and just gently rests their thumbs on your cheeks. And this woman is going to say, "Oh, sweetie, no, don't." I want to say don't cry, but honestly, it's probably good that you do because I've missed you too, honey. missed you too. You get this all out of you, okay? You cry as much as you need. You do what you gotta do. And when you're ready, I'll still be here, okay? I'm not going anywhere. And she just holds your face.
He continued to cry for a good while before it kind of becomes too exhausting to do so, and like his throat is seizing up, and he's kind of gasping for a little bit of breath, but he can't stop the tears from rolling down his cheeks. And they're not quite Ghibli level tears, so not huge bulbous ones, but they are that really consistent anime kind of tears.
The shiny tears.
Um, yeah,
The twinkle
and
tears.
and he's kind of gets to the point where the tears don't stop, but he just needs to kind of just catch his breath, and he just sort of leans back from her a little bit and slams his eyes closed and takes some very, very deep breaths, just trying to get himself under control.
Okay. As this woman feels you lean back, you feel her hand retract away from your face, and one of the hands go back to your shoulder and squeeze and says, "All right, it's okay. You take your time, honey. Oh, hang on. Let me just." And you do feel movement from the other side of you, and I'm gonna roll this. There we go. So I'd like a 19 or a
19 and
19.
yeah,
Okay, this woman.
choices abound.
Apparently, this woman is very used to doing this. She reaches across the table, snags the mug she was drinking out of with her pinky, and just drags it across the table towards her. She says, "All right, okay, sweetie, I I know it's very hard right now. It's you're feeling a lot, and it's okay. You take as much time as you need. But if I don't know if this would help, but would you like to would you like to tell me about would you like to tell me about your day, honey? Um, how you've been? What's been going on? You don't have to. Of course, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. We can just sit here and we can just sit with each other for a little while. But if if you wanted to tell me what's been going on with you, and she starts to give a bit of a slightly wet laugh. If you wanted to tell me what you've been up to recently, I won't say no, because I have really missed you, Chifley, and it'd be wonderful to catch up with you.
He takes another couple of those really deep breaths, and and I'm gonna roll my con save actually.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a 4. Okay. So he rubs it at his cheeks a bit to try and clear the tears, and he takes some very deep breaths, and he opens his mouth to say something, but he can't make any sound come out, and he just winces and looks away, a little bit ashamed.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna roll insight here. I do not want a plus 29. That would be amazing, but no, thank you. I don't think
Damn!
that would be
What a
appropriate.
modifier!
What a damn modifier. I'll take a 22 though.
Okay, a 22. Like there is a little bit of shame, but it's not the real feeling that he's feeling, and she can actually hear it in his theme more than see it in his behavior. His voice has ceased, and it's something that she's actually quite familiar with, and he hates it, and she knows he hates it, and he just still he's looking away from her, and his hands are clenched on his lap, and he takes a few more breaths, opens his mouth, tries again, and still nothing, and he just winces and sighs. His shoulders kind of droop, and then he is going to attempt his hammer space.
Cool.
Not a 1. This would be really weird to fumble in.
I will say if you
yeah,
fumble here, I have something planned for that.
Oh.
Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
Don't worry about it. Oh dear. Yeah, so he reaches into his hammer space and he pulls out a blue notebook, the kind that has a little. It comes with a little pen that sort of slots into some bands on the spine, and it's a very familiar notebook because she gave it to him. And he slides the pen out of its little holder and flips to a new page, and he just. His hands are shaking, but he manages to write, it's been a long day, and then turns the book around to show her.
And as he pulls out this notebook, you hear a, oh, okay, sweetie, let's have a look. And you just see her very, very calmly read over what you've written. And she nods her head like, yes, yes, I can understand that. That's understandable, honey. If you need to take your time, go ahead and take your time, okay? I'm not gonna rush you on this. We have all the time in the world, okay? And as she says that, she kind of gently bops Chifley on the nose. Says, "We've got all the time in the world here, sweetie. There's no rush. Take your time. Because good things take their time to come to fruition. You know this. And okay, how about?" And you see her clap her hands together and say, "How about I tell you about what I've been doing, what I've been getting up to, and from there, see how you feel in a little bit, okay?" And from there, she will kind of absent-mindedly. I gotta roll on a for this. She will kind of absent-mindedly just reach towards the plate of food stuff she's prepared and try to pop one of the snacks in her mouth. I didn't know if you wanted to flavour what these snacks are exactly.
They'd probably be. What were his favorites? Probably some really badly made, like fried dumplings and some edamame beans, as well as like little cubes of cheese and little slices of words. Words come to me. Chorizo. The little snack sausages that you can eat with a toothpick.
Ooh, yes, cocktail sausages.
Yeah, so it's this like it's a kind of half average Western snack plate, and then half. Oh yeah, you could find that in any kind of like sushi restaurant kind of thing.
Just like little finger foods, essentially.
Yeah,
Picky food.
yeah. But the most notable thing is the dumplings, because she could never make dumplings neatly, no matter how hard she tried.
Okay. So what happens here is she does not look away from Chifley. She has rolled a nat 20 somehow on grabbing this stuff. She grabs
Wow.
one of everything, and she just kind of absent-mindedly shoves like a little cube of cheese in her mouth. And she starts to talk to Chifley about her day and what she's been doing. She tells you about the little projects she's been working on. She's picked up a new design, little pattern she wanted to try and make. The last time she tried this, she kind of pricked her fingers quite a lot, which kind of happens when you're trying something new. But hey, you got to persevere and keep going, right? And she tells you about the garden. I don't know how much of a green thumb she actually is, but she's kind of, she's been trying her hand at that too. Try and She's trying to grow like chrysanthemums and a couple of lilies out there. She's giving it a good go with that as well. She tells you. Let me see. What else does she tell you? She tells you she's been trying a new recipe for her dumplings, and as she says that, she pops one of them into her mouth, and I'm going to roll a con save.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
12. Okay. So, Chifley, as you're listening to this woman rattle on, she that at 20, it was impossible for her not to grab one of the dumplings. She picks it up and plonks it into her mouth, and you see one of her cheeks just like goes very large with the size of the dumpling she's popped in. And you see her start to try and walk through this through this dumpling, and as she tries, she just slowly goes quiet, and you hear just like a mm, and it's just kind of you hear like the thick like chewing noise before like a and she swallows and she's like, okay, just oof, okay, and she quickly grabs her mug and takes a quick swig and says, okay, okay, so number one, too much salt. Way too much salt in that one. Ooh, okay, okay, let's adjust that recipe a little bit. I think I'll try something else next time. And she she turns to look at you, Chifley says, oh, you should maybe not try the dumplings on these ones. I may have used a little bit too much salt in this one. I'm sorry. But hey, the rest of it's store bought, so it should be fine. And she just kind of shoves the plate of cocktail sausages and beans and cheese at you and says, "Go ahead, just take a few little bits, okay, honey? Because you're looking a little thin, honey. You need to eat more." And she just starts to poke you in the arm a little bit, briefly, and she gives you a look. um,
He does sort of snort a little bit, and there's a little bit of a wheeze, which might have been a attempt to laughing. And he does take one of the edamame bean pods and pop the two beans out and eat those and have a sip of his tea, and then take a very deep breath. And he still can't quite, like, there's a bit of a wheeze noise when he opens his mouth and tries to speak. And he just sort of turns his head heavenward for a moment and then turns back to his book, and then he writes a message in there for her and turns the book around, and it says, "You should just stick to Grandpa's recipe."
um, as you cut the beans and pop them into your mouth, you just see her nod approvingly um, at you. She kind of leans back and crosses her arms across her stomach and just like nods very sagely and wisely before you push the book towards her, and she takes a quick peek and says, you hear a please, of course you're gonna say go with Grandpa's recipe, but guess what? Grandpa is not always right, Chifley. If you don't do new things, you're not gonna learn new things. And I need to push myself as much as I can. You know that. I like to do things differently, and doing the same old thing all the time is boring. So sometimes you need to play around with what works a little while to see if you can find something that works even better. Um, and she, as she says this, she's giving Chifley a very cheeky grin, and you see like little crinkles in her eyes as she smiles, and then you hear her say, "Oh, wait a second, hang on, let me just," and she reaches into the front pocket of her apron, and she pulls out, where is it? Right, there we go. She pulls out two objects and puts them on the table. And she says, "I noticed you were reading these earlier, Chifley. You doing a little bit of holiday reading, honey?" And she pats two items on the table and raises a brow at you.
Oh, okay. Do you need me to roll perception or anything, or
That's up to you. I'll leave these rolls up to you at the moment.
Okay, well, I think he probably can recognize them for what they are without having to roll, hey?
Yeah. Chifley, your mother has just pulled out of her apron teaching and parenting books you were reading earlier. I will say that as you look at them, they're a little bit blurry. You can't quite figure out why, but the edges of the books are a little bit blurry. As she flicks open the pages, you do recognize some of the content of these pages as she flicks through. Some of it is startlingly clear, and some of it is a little smudgy. But as she opens them up, she says, I see you've been really hard at work, you know, learning the ropes, as it were, and you're getting into teaching? She gives you kind of a questioning look and says, I I didn't know you were. I didn't think you wanted to go into teaching, Chifley. That's a really good career for you. I think. I think that's you.
He kind of rubs the back of his neck a little bit and swallows, and then he takes a deep breath and attempts his voice again. And it's not something I was actively pursuing, but someone wanted to learn, and I I said that I would teach them what I knew, and it seemed like the right thing to do.
And as you start to speak, you see this woman's face soften and reach out and gently place her hand over the one that's nearest, over your hand that's nearest to her, and just give it a squeeze and say, "Well, whatever reason drove you to it, I think it's a really good idea, Chifley. You're always so helpful around here." And she gestures around this old familiar place of yours, um, and she looks back and says, "You're always so keen to help and so willing, and I think it's good that you're passing on what you know to other people. It's it's an honorable career. It's a good choice for you. It's a good fit. I I think this is really good for you, honey." And she squeezes your hand, and
He smiles a little bit at that, and the tears are starting to build up in his eyes again a little bit. It,
um,
it's not my primary. It's more of a hobby, really. I'm going into something completely different, and I seem to be pretty good at it. But I'm learning. I don't know if you ever went there, but there's a place in Toontown called the ECCR. It's got doctors. They treat color conditions, and he brings his other hand around and holds onto her hand really tightly. Some of the conditions we treat are the same ones you have.
and as you talk, as you start off talking, you see this woman reach out again, and she cups her other hand over your hand and holds both of your hands between hers as you keep talking. Um, and as you keep on talking about where you work, do you want to roll me a quick insight?
Yeah, we can do that. Air in, air out. Oh
I
boy,
also need.
Chiff, you're making me cry.
I
Uh,
pet you so much, miss. I'm so sorry. I'm giving you such a
method acting.
hug.
Woo.
Okay,
10.
do with
Oh,
advantage, please.
come on, Chiff.
Come on, Chiff. That's what I
Yeah, 24.
want. Um, you see that this woman, as she's looking at you, she is very proud of you. She she has been looking at the book and she's looking at you, and she's looking at you with an old familiar expression you haven't seen in a few years, Chifley, and she's not not since not since a while back, and she is looking at you with such a look of pride on her face, and you also get like a look of sort of fondness, like silly fondness, on her face as she looks at you, starting to get a little teary again.
Mm.
She looks at you and she says, "Oh, honey, that, did you go into that because of me, honey?" And she moves her hand his um from his hand and gently claps them on the side of his head. And she says, "Okay, okay, young man, I think that is enough tears for today." And she shoves her fingers in his hair and starts to ruffle them and says, "No more tears for you, young man. You are not here to be. I mean, you can be sad if you want to, obviously." And as she's saying this, she is just continuing to ruffle her fingers through Chifley's hair. Says, "You're not here to be sad all the time. I don't want to see you be upset all the time. But if you need to cry, I won't stop you from crying. But hey, I'm here, and you are here, and we are here to be, have a fun time, and, catch up a little. And I'm so proud of you. I am so, so proud of you. Okay, honey? I'm so proud of you." And
He does lean away from her at the ruffle, and there's something that could be some sort of chuckle, but he does sort of sniffle as she keeps talking, and as soon as there's a like a pause in what she's saying, he does turn to her and go, "How can I not be crying? You've been dead for 2 years."
And as you say that, she stops, and you feel the hand in your hair just slowly pull away, and you see the woman clasp her hands in her lap and look down at them and say, yeah, I have been gone a little while, haven't I, honey? Oh, I, I didn't mean." And she just looks at her hands and then looks at the table, where the books and the two mugs of tea and snacks sit. And she looks at that for a while before looking back at Chifley and saying, I didn't mean to leave you two. I didn't mean to leave you two, honey. Sometimes things happen, and I've got to roll something here. There we go. Sometimes things happen that we can't control, sweetie. And okay, nat 20, very nice. She keeps it together. As she keeps on, she says, "Sometimes things happen that are outside of our control, and we have to keep going, even if it means leaving someone behind." And that's what you did. That's what you did. You took yourself and your sister. And as she says, your sister, you see a very fond smile come on her face. Um, you took yourself and your sister, and you made your way somewhere where you both be happier instead of being, well. She looks around at the old house, your old house, and looks back at you and says, "You took yourself somewhere where you both make such a happier life. You did what you had to do to keep on going, and I couldn't be more proud of you and more proud of her for how far you've come. And okay, look at me, sweetie." And she reaches back out again, grasps one of Tiffany's hands, and says, "Look at me, okay? I understand you're sad I'm gone. I'm sad I'm gone. I'm not just sad, I'm kind of pissed, actually." And as she says that, you see one of her hands just slap the table like, "Darn, I'm kind of angry. I wanted to be there to see Missy's first play. I wanted to be there to see. I wanted to be here to see her run headfirst down a hill and do a catapult or a somersault or cannonball into a summer lake. I wanted to be there to see her do all these silly, stupid, wonderful things as she grows up. And I wanted to be there to see you grow up too, sweetie, and it sucks. I can't be there all the time. And she pulls away as she says this. And I'm gonna have her face again. But you remember, Chifley, do you remember, remember something that I made for you, for both of you, when you were very little?
He's gonna pause and then, do you mean the ragdoll?
She smiles and she reaches back into her apron again. And she reaches both her hands back into the front of her apron and she pulls out two rag dolls. One has little green strands and a lovely little dress, and the other has little blue strands and blue overalls. And she holds these two things very, very gently, um, with great fondness as she looks down, and then she looks back at you, Chifley, and hands them over and says, "Tell me what you say for me, Chifley."
He sort of stops and gives them a little bit of a squeeze, and he sort of looks them over a little bit. And I don't remember Missy's off the top of my head, but gosh, it's been such a long time.
As you say that, you see this woman look at you with a little sad smile, and she lifts up one of the hands of the green doll and pops you on the nose like, "You don't remember my name, silly? You don't remember what I do?" And I've got to roll performance on this to see how well she does. How well do you do the voice? And it's a decent enough voice. It's passable. It's possible for someone that's...
He just sort of...
Yeah, go ahead.
He just sort of sniffles and chuckles a little bit and rubs at his face a little. I didn't bring him with me when we left. Missy did, but she's given her away now.
As you say that, you see, you want to roll me a quick insight?
Sure.
Yeah, as you say that, she says, "Oh, really now? 24. Okay. You look at this woman, and there's a strange look on this woman's face. There is a look of both pride. That seems to be a concurrent feeling. That seems to be a running theme. This woman is proud of you and of your sister, and that just seems to be the the base layer of this woman. And as you take a little deeper of a look, you see it's kind of a bittersweet look. It's happiness that Missy loved these dolls enough that she took some of them with her, and that they were precious enough that she kept them this whole time. But it's also a little bittersweet because now you don't have this doll anymore, and she made them for you both, and she seems to think that she seems to trust that if Missy gave away one of her dolls to someone, then she probably had a good reason for it. Even if those dolls, even if those dolls were intended for you, if Missy thought they would be better for someone else, then whilst it was perhaps something she had hoped would be passed down in the family, it's it's gone somewhere where it will be needed more than it will be needed by you.
Yeah, I think Chifley will see that and give a kind of a weak little smile and then look back down at the dolls that he's holding in his hands, and just sort of run his thumb over the embroidered face of the green one. As he is not as observant as I am sometimes, but she saw that this friend of ours was suffering, and she said that they could take Luna because it always made her happy when she was feeling sad, and as a friend of ours needed it. She was sure that you wouldn't mind.
And as you say that, the woman smiles and says, "Well, your sister always had a bit of a knack for knowing what to do, even if she was a little rambunctious about it." Just a little chuckle. So if she thinks that little Luna would be better off with someone who needed her more, then that's, well, that's where she needs to go. But even if you don't, even if he doesn't have her anymore, even if you don't have Solaris anymore, and she waves the little blue doll she's still holding at you, and she gently drops them onto your lap and says, even if you don't have the dolls anymore, even if you've given them away or left them behind, and as she's talking, you feel something warm go through you as she keeps talking. I want you to remember what I sewed onto these very dolls, okay? Even if you don't have them anymore, even if you can't see them anymore or feel them or hold them anymore, I need you to remember for me what I wrote, okay? I need you to remember that no matter the clouds between us, I will always see my light. And no matter my form, I'm always here watching your dream. And she starts to sing in a little off-key little lullaby. And as she does so, she pops the dolls in your lap and she reaches forward again. And she just opens her arms up as she starts to sing, Chifley.
Oh, he's going to accept that offered hug and just lean heavily into her.
And as you do, she holds you as tight as she can manage. And as she keeps singing, Chifley, you feel yourself getting a little more tired. And as she keeps singing, you hear um, uh, some last little words before you fade out. You hear, "Oh, oh, Chifley, my little Sonata. No matter what happens, okay? You do your best. You take care of your sister. And just remember, I'm proud of you, okay? I'm always gonna be proud of you." And Chifley, you want to roll me a con save, please?
Sure. That 10.
And I, ooh, Chifley, you wake up, almost all of a sudden, in the library.
Oh, that's abrupt.
Yep. Do you want to roll me perception?
Sure. Is it that? Yes, it's that. Chifley,
God.
that's a nat 1! Oh,
That is
it's okay. I imagine that he's crying a little bit when he wakes up anyway.
Oh no. Oh, well, man, with the nat, even if it's a nat 1, I sure can tell you time has passed. You probably got here about, like, early morning-ish after you dropped dropped Missy off at school. It is now, it it's probably about an hour or two before you have to go and pick her up. You have been asleep for quite a little bit, my friend, and as you wake up,
That's some nap.
I will say, as you do, yeah, it's a power nap. That was a hell of a nap. I will say, as you do wake up, you notice your headache has gone. Your headache has definitely receded for now. Yeah, that's what you wake up to.
Gosh, I think he's going to have to take a couple of seconds to just sort of get his bearings. He's like, okay, and like just wipe the tears off his face. I'm actually going to make him roll a hammer space. That's not a one. He's just going to pull a handkerchief out of his coat and blow his nose and just wipe his face and just sort of take stock.
As you blow your nose, I imagine it's quite loud, like a sort of noise. And as you blow your nose, someone pops their head around the corner and they just go, and then they pop their head back around.
And he just sort of shrinks down in his chair a little bit. He's like, I can't help how loud my nose is. Give me a break.
You Chifley. Oh gosh. Yeah, Chifley buddy, you're awake now. Your nose has been blown, and yeah, the books are still where they were before. Both of them are on the pages you've been flipping to. And obviously you've got that color theory book that you only just kind of tried to open up before you fell asleep.
He's gonna look down at the two books and he's gonna close them and pick them up and then kind of just sort of do a bit of a look around, check the time, and then I'm gonna roll a d2. 1 yes, 2 no. Okay, great. So that was a roll to see whether or not he was supposed to be at work today. But it was a 2. So thankfully,
fine.
He's fine, which is just as well, because I don't really want to think about what would happen if his phone started going off in his hammer space and someone come and wake him up in the middle of all that. That would not have been great. Because, don't want everyone to glare at him.
Yeah. Just pulls out the phone, it's 27 missed calls.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, no, he's gonna take the two books to the counter, check them out, and then pop them in his hammer space and start walking towards Missy's school to go and pick her up. And he just sort of keeps rubbing it at his cheeks because, after you've been crying, you can always feel the feeling of them on your cheeks. And he just looks up at the sky a little bit. I hope I deserve you to be proud of me, Mum. I really do. I'm trying. And then he sort of just sighs and heads off to go and pick Missy up.
And as you do, could you roll me one last perception at advantage?
I can. Okay, thank goodness I've got advantage.
Yeah, that's 20, baby! That's what I like to see! Okay, Chifley, you are walking your way to school to pick up Missy, and you hear this clear as day as you can hear someone's theme. It's odd. So, you hear a theme you haven't heard in a little while, and you can't quite locate where it's coming from. You hear a theme, and you hear a laugh. Of course I love you, Priscilla. Of course I'm proud of you. How could I not be? Oh, how could I not be proud of you, Chifley? I love you. And do you want to describe, if you know, what the theme sounds like?
So Chifley Forde's theme is sort of like, it's a cheerful sort of the sort of song that you play when you're dancing around the maypole in spring, kind of thing. It's done on a lute, so it's a plucked string instrument, and it's very cheerful and bouncy. And even when the strings aren't quite plucked with enough enthusiasm, the main melody is still there, because she was always trying to keep herself cheerful no matter how sick she got. And that was one of the things that Chifley remembers about her the most, is that unwavering cheerfulness no matter what happened.
I will say, unless there is anything you would like to add to this, end it there.
Nope. Nope, my throat is seizing up from all the crying Chifley had me do, so I'm good.
Thank you. Liz, I give you a big hug. Oh, that was emotionally intense.
Oh yeah, yep. I'm
Oof.
tired now. The number of
Oh,
times I had to mute to blow my nose
oh
was a lot.
gosh. Oh. So, for everyone listening, both present and future, thank you for listening to me torture Wisp for a little while.
Yes.
um, this has been Make Whisk Cry the FPS. Thank you for listening. But in all seriousness, thank you for listening. Whisk, thank you for playing with me and giving me this opportunity to get my grubby mitts on one of the lovely Fords. And yeah,
Oh dear.
I guess we can end it here. And
Yeah, it sounds good. Thank you very much for all of the emotions.
You're welcome.
Oh dear.
But yeah,
That was fun.
goodbye to anyone listening. I hope you enjoyed this. And yeah, this is where we fade out.
See you next time. Bye bye.